Tonight, the U.S. and China slash their reciprocal triple-digit tariffs, but the new rates could still shake economies.
It's just another day in a pretty wild ride that we're having here on tariffs.
Are there lessons for the Canadian government? What to expect in Mark Carney's new federal cabinet set to be sworn in on Tuesday?
He has to make sure that his cabinet presents a very different face than the one that surrounded Justin Trudeau.
And the connection between Canada's housing crunch and immigration policy.
We are really struggling with getting the right type of workers.
A call for relatively fewer skilled laborers.
From CBC News, this is The National with Chief Correspondent Adrian Arsenault.
Thank you for joining us. The U.S. and China have blown apart the mountain of tariffs separating them. And while the truce will have global impacts, Canada will notice a couple of things. The new tariffs are still high, and the agreement is temporary, just 90 days. Still, stock markets rallied, partly on hopes that container traffic will pick up. The U.S. president calls it a total reset, but that's a reset with China. The tariffs on Canada remain, something its new cabinet will be all over when it's sworn in tomorrow. We'll get to that in a moment, but first, Paul Hunter on the new tariff arrangement and any lessons revealed.
Normally chock-a-block with anything and everything made in China, the suddenly quiet container ports of California evidence U.S. President Donald Trump's mega tariffs targeting China had kicked in big time.
We have reached an agreement.
But after weekend talks with China in Geneva, word of a temporary easing of the U.S. instigated trade war and agreement to keep talking, with U.S. demands still unresolved.
We would like to see China open to more U.S. goods. We want more balanced trade, and I think that both sides are committed to achieving that.
We achieved a total reset with China.
If it is a reset, it comes with a continued steep price. Under the agreement, the U.S. will reduce its extra tariffs on China from a whopping 145% to a still giant 30%. In turn, China will drop its counter tariffs from 125% to 10%, all of it for 90 days. But
it doesn't include tariffs on cars, steel, aluminum, things such as that, or tariffs that may be imposed on pharmaceuticals.
And on Wall Street, markets surged as China called the talks candid, in-depth, and constructive with substantial progress. A potential takeaway for Canada that the sting of Trump's tariffs with higher prices for everyday Americans may well be a powerful tool.
With the U.S. key retail markets continuing to suffer, that may create additional leverage for Canada on which to rely in future negotiations to try and settle this tariff issue once and for all with the United States.
Then again, say some, this latest twist in Trump's trade warfare could simply soon twist again.
I think it's just another day in a pretty wild ride that we're having here on tariffs, and I don't expect there to be a lot of stability after this 90-day period, and frankly, even within it.
With uncertainty, Adrian, still the operative word all round.
And so on China, Paul, what's next? Is it as simple as talks now continue?
Yes, only potentially on a significantly higher level. Donald Trump now suggesting he may have direct talks on this with Chinese President Xi Jinping by the end of the week. Worth noting, though, Adrian, Trump also said that if lower-level talks going forward do not bring a full agreement, U.S. tariffs will go back up, as Trump put it, substantially.
All right, Paul Hunter tonight in Washington. Okay, now let's get to Mark Carney's new cabinet. The team that will deal with Donald Trump's tariff threats on Canada will be sworn in Tuesday. Ashley Burke on what we know, including some new faces.
New Liberal MPs in training heading to tour the House of Commons.
Very excited. Yeah, thrilled. Trying to drink from a fire hose, basically, today.
At the airport, more MPs are arriving, watching for the Prime Minister's next big move, selecting his new cabinet.
Well, I think it's important for every region to be represented.
I'm Mark Carney.
Mark Carney will be back at Rideau Hall tomorrow for a swearing-in ceremony. His office says more than half of the faces will be new to his cabinet. Sources tell Radio-Canada Joël Lightbound and Nathalie Provost are expected to join the ministerial team.
He has to make sure that his cabinet presents a very different face than the one that surrounded Justin Trudeau.
Sources say Carney is expected to drop a lot of people that were in his first cabinet, like Jonathan Wilkinson, as he tries to remake the Liberals' image and focus on the economy. But sources say some familiar faces like Chrystia Freeland and Stephen Guilbeault will stay.
We need leadership, not just from the top, but from the cabinet as a whole, that commits to the agenda of diversification, which means we need to build things in our country again.
The Prime Minister's office says Carney is expected to keep his cabinet under 30 people, plus add a second tier, up to 10 more junior ministers known as secretaries of state.
This allows for more streamlined conversations at the big table when core decisions are happening, that you have fewer people there, but that you can also draw on the ministers of state, their experience.
Carney has to deliver an aggressive agenda that differentiates himself from Justin Trudeau, while also building up his cabinet to take on Donald Trump. Plus, he's facing calls from regional leaders in Western Canada to be more friendly to their interests. That gives Carney an international diplomatic challenge and also a national unity one. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
And CBC News will have special coverage of the cabinet announcement hosted by Chief Political Correspondent Rosemary Barton. That is tomorrow morning, starting at 9:30 Eastern. Well, an Alberta separatist group has drafted a referendum question it hopes to get in front of provincial voters.
Do you agree that the province of Alberta shall become a sovereign country and cease to be a province of Canada, yes or no?
The Alberta Prosperity Project says once it garners support from 600,000 people, it will petition the province to get the question onto a ballot and push the Premier to hold the referendum before the end of the year. Well, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy affirmed he is ready to talk face-to-face with Russia's President Vladimir Putin in Istanbul on Thursday, suggesting Putin may have gotten cold feet.
Moscow
has remained silent all day regarding the proposal for a direct meeting, said Zelenskyy, adding, it's a very strange silence. Direct talks were proposed by Putin himself this weekend. Turkey has agreed to host the two leaders, and if it happens, Donald Trump, who will be in the region, says he might attend. Donald Trump's first stop on that trip, Saudi Arabia. Chris Brown is also in the kingdom, in Riyadh, and shows that even before Trump's arrival, the U.S. helped engineer a diplomatic coup.
As breakthroughs in this catastrophic war go, the release of hostage and U.S. citizen Idan Alexander was a modest one, though for his loved ones, an obviously euphoric moment. But the deal for his freedom appeared to cut out Israel. The U.S. negotiated with Hamas, leaving other Israeli hostage families incensed at their government.
Netanyahu is working on stalling and prolonging the war on the blood of Israeli civilians and Israeli soldiers.
The UN says Israel's blockade of Gaza has left 500,000 people facing starvation. Relentless bombing has killed thousands since its military broke the ceasefire in March. Hamas has said it will only release the remaining hostages if Israel permanently ends its attacks, which it won't agree to. Trump is heading to a region that badly wants the war over. But Saudi Arabia, his first stop, also wants U.S. capital and know-how, and it's treating his visit like a giant trade fair. Saudi's so-called 2030 plan has seen dramatic change here as it tries to shift Western focus away from Saudi Arabia's poor human rights record and onto successes.
The biggest success is not brick and mortar. The biggest success is the change that we are seeing in society, the return to moderate Islam.
But this journalist says Saudi's leadership prizes regional stability, and as long as the war in Gaza rages, there is none.
The good thing about President Trump is he has the ability to convince everybody. My personal hope is that the U.S. will make a a decision or take some actions that will help end this conflict.
Israel is taking partial credit for Alexander's release, saying it only happened because of its attacks on Gaza. Israel is going to send negotiators to Qatar, which should make for a dramatic few days, as that's where Donald Trump is headed after his business here. Chris Brown, CBC News, Riyadh.
Now, before Donald Trump left Washington, he defended his willingness to accept a luxury jet from Qatar as the official presidential aircraft.
They're giving us a free jet. I could say, no, 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 don't give us, I want to pay you $1 billion or 400 million or whatever it is. Or I could say, thank you very much.
Critics say the gift is illegal, but Attorney General Pam Bondi says it's fine if it's going to the U.S. Defense Department. Bondi, by the way, was previously a registered lobbyist for the Qatari government. Allegations about the private life of Sean Diddy Combs were put on public display today as his sex trafficking trial began in earnest. Chris Reyes has been watching it all unfold.
The family of Sean Diddy Combs showed a united front as they cut through the frenzy outside the courthouse, a lineup of media, fans, spectators, some waiting overnight just to get in. Combs' defense team's publicist said her client is in good spirits.
He's ready to go. He's ready to put on his defense. This has been, 8 months waiting for this?
In just the first few hours of the trial, the jury would hear some of the most private, alleged details of Combs' life, including graphic sexual encounters from one witness who worked for a stripper service. In their opening statements, lawyers laid out dueling narratives of the music mogul. From the prosecution, that Combs was a powerful man with endless resources who orchestrated so-called freak-offs, sex parties where women were abused, exploited, and drugged, while directing members of his inner circle to commit or cover up crimes. From the defense, that Combs is a complicated man who had sexually charged but consensual relationships with women. These women were strong and capable, defense attorney Tini Gergos told the jury. The evidence is going to show you a very flawed individual, but it will not show you a racketeer, a sex trafficker, or somebody transporting for prostitution. Central to the prosecution's case is Combs' relationship with his ex-girlfriend, model and musician Cassie Ventura. Their violent relationship revealed in the security footage leaked to media last year. That same video from 2016 was shown to the jury as the bodyguard of the hotel testified to witnessing the brutal beating. The government's allegation is that Combs controlled every aspect of her life, leaving her powerless against his abusive demands.
She's feeling okay with this. Is she nervous?
She's ready.
The trial is expected to last 8 weeks. Cassie Ventura will be a key witness. If convicted, Mr. Combs could face up to life in prison.
Chris, you're always able to glean something when you're inside. What did you see today?
I was in the overflow room where they had a big TV screen. I had a pretty clear sight of him, and I'll tell you, it was quite stunning to see the sight of Mr. Combs, gray hair, a sweater, sitting there as a defendant and not as a celebrity. And in the room with me were mostly spectators who reacted pretty dramatically to everything that they heard. You got this real sense that they're curious about this trial because of what it may reveal about the inner workings of the music industry.
All right, Chris Reyes in New York. Thank you.
Thank you.
In the sexual assault trial of 5 former World Junior hockey players, defense lawyers questioned the complainant about her own behavior. Katie Nicholson was in the courtroom to bring us the latest, and we want to warn you, some details may be difficult to hear.
A crowd of supporters clustered again outside the London courthouse. There for EM, the complainant who inside was challenged by defense lawyers on her own behavior in a hotel room where she says she was sexually assaulted by former World Junior hockey players in June of 2018. Michael McLeod, Alex Fermenton, Carter Hart, Dylan Dubé, and Cal Foote have all pleaded not guilty. You were egging those players on to have sex with you, said Daniel Brown, who represents Formenton. EM denied that. Formenton is alleged to have sexually assaulted EM in the hotel bathroom. Brown suggested there is a witness who will say EM guided Formenton to the bathroom. I don't remember that, EM said, but I guess it could be possible. Brown also suggested she told Fromentin he didn't need to wear a condom because she was on birth control. EM said, "I don't recall any conversation about that." Lisa Carnelos, representing Dubé, continued the line of questioning, saying EM taunted the players to have sex with her. "You actually called them pussies and made reference to the fact you would expect something different from hockey players," Carnelos said. EM seemed taken aback and repeated it didn't sound like something she would say. Carnelos also pushed EM on why it took 3 days to tell her best friend about how serious the alleged incident was. Texting, "My mom has taken it hella seriously, contacting the police and shit. The group of guys are all high-up hockey players. Go figure, LMAO." "I was in between ignoring it and pretending it didn't happen," EM told Carnelos. "I'd never gone through something like that before." Next, EM faces the last of the 5 defense teams in what will be the 7th day of a cross-examination that has sought to puncture her credibility and her accounts of what happened that night. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, London, Ontario.
A shaky ceasefire between India and Pakistan appears to be holding tonight, and people on both sides of the disputed Kashmir region are returning home. South Asia correspondent Salima Shivji is in Mumbai with some of their stories.
2 days after the fragile ceasefire began, an uneasy calm in one of the hardest hit towns in Indian-controlled Kashmir. Signs of the conflict embedded everywhere. "My home was badly damaged," this man says. "All we want is peace." On the other side of the line of control, the de facto border dividing Kashmir, people are slowly returning to homes abandoned in haste. Kala Khan never left. His family hunkered down in a bunker that he's ready to use again. "We hid here from the shelling," he says. "It's fully stocked if the ceasefire falls apart." That's a distinct fear for many here, used to the decades-long acrimonious battle between India and Pakistan for control of Kashmir. The latest flare-up lasted 4 intense days, triggered by a deadly attack on tourists that India blames on terrorists it says are backed by Pakistan, a claim Islamabad denies. Each side quickly claimed victory over the weekend. Fervor and cheers in Pakistan, with headlines praising the country's brave, glorious sons. In India, Prime Minister Narendra Modi met with top officials before telling the nation, "Terror and talks can't go together. This is only a pause on military action," Modi says. "We'll wait and see what Islamabad does."
As many on both sides cling to the hope that the ceasefire will hold, there's a lot of uncertainty and unresolved issues.
A crucial water-sharing treaty is still suspended. Pakistan desperately needs the water, but India is hinting it will take a hard line. And the shaky truce won't bring back those lost in the violent clashes. This new widow is inconsolable. The toll of the brief conflict hard to comprehend for so many. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Mumbai.
There is growing criticism of the use of temporary staffing agencies to fill gaps in the healthcare system.
We have to deal with the root issue, the root cause of nurses leaving.
The new report calling on hospitals to stop using them. Next. Plus, major U.S. conferences relocating to Canada.
If we were to just hold the conference in Seattle, it would be significantly underattended.
Why the rhetoric in Washington is driving some of the North. And later, some terrifying moments on a Banff trail.
Still follow me. You gotta remain calm and don't run.
A hiker's grisly encounter. We're back in 2.
President Trump's loss is British Columbia's gain.
British Columbia says it is making it easier for American medical professionals to come to Canada by fast-tracking credential recognition to just days. It says that since April, more than 100 nurses have been processed. Well, a shortage of healthcare professionals, especially nurses, is a problem across the country. A new report by a Canadian think tank points the finger at the expanding use of private agencies in place of staff hires. Alison Northcott has the details.
So I'm just going to check your blood pressure, okay?
Staff at this Ontario hospital have been working to reduce reliance on private agencies that provide temporary hires like nurses to help fill shifts. Agency use here soared when the COVID-19 pandemic hit as demand increased and nurses left the profession.
The challenge in working with agency nursing is primarily that there's a much higher cost.
A new report shows Ontario hospitals paid for-profit agencies $9.2 billion over 10 years. Per capita spending on agencies nearly doubled between 2013 and 2023, while for employed staff it increased by only 6%.
This is a very expensive form of staffing hospitals, but it's coming really at the expense of being able to invest and make those investments in the long-term workforce.
This recently graduated registered nurse says her staff job at the hospital is more appealing than agency work.
Working in the agency, you do have a flexibility and probably you will get more pay, but in terms of support and the teamwork, I think personally that's something very important for me.
The Canadian Federation of Nurses Unions has called the use of agencies band-aids on gaping wounds.
Quebec recently passed a law limiting the use of private staffing agencies in some parts of the province, with a plan to phase them out more widely by the end of next year.
Nursing agencies.
But critics say that doesn't solve underlying problems like working conditions.
We have to deal with the root issue, the root cause of nurses leaving, rather than just putting stop signs everywhere.
Everyone is well staffed.
A spokesperson for Ontario's health minister said agency staff hours represent less than 2% of the total hours worked in hospitals. The report's author calls on Ontario to boost hospital funding and follow Quebec's lead to phase out agencies over the next 3 years. Alison Northcott, CBC News, Montreal.
As fewer Canadians travel to the U.S., those planning conferences are having second thoughts.
In light of some of the rhetoric coming out of the White House in the United States, it would be very unpalatable for many of our members to go to America.
Why some see this as an opportunity for Canada. Plus, from the waters off Columbia to a remote Labrador community, a fight to save lives.
I don't get a sense that people see it as a crisis.
What is driving the surge of cocaine deaths? And under the weight of a housing crisis, does Canada need to rethink its immigration policy?
If we don't meet that quota of workers that we need, what's the effect?
It's going to drive up pricing of new homes.
The National breaks down the story shaping our world. Next. More evidence tonight that Canadians have been rethinking their plans to visit the United States. Statistics Canada says that year over year, return air travel to the U.S. was down almost 20% in April. Automobile trips at land crossings were down 35.2% in April year over year. This is the fourth straight month of declines. That travel hesitancy is already being felt at major U.S. conferences. So as Sophia Harris found out, some upcoming gatherings are pulling up stakes and heading north.
So this is a big one.
When U.S. President Trump took office, this sociologist knew they wouldn't be attending an upcoming sports sociology conference in Seattle, despite overseeing its planning.
As a trans person, I no longer feel safe entering the U.S.
It wasn't long before many other Canadian members reported they too wouldn't travel to the U.S. Reasons include Trump's tariffs,
Steel, aluminum.
his threats to annex Canada,
It would really be a wonderful marriage.
and increased border security.
It was a real sense of violation.
This sociologist also won't be going. He says in March, on his way to a conference in South Carolina, a U.S. Customs officer interrogated him at the Montreal airport and searched his phone and wallet.
To be subject to these kind of searches and the seemingly arbitrary authority of basically police officers in these spaces, it's beyond disquieting. You know, it's frightening.
To address the travel concerns, organizers decided to add a second tandem conference location in Vancouver.
If we were to just hold the conference in Seattle, it would be significantly underattended.
CBC News has also identified several other organizations which recently relocated their entire upcoming conferences from the U.S. to Canada.
It's a great biomarker.
In another case, a pending American-Canadian Pathologist Conference chose Montreal.
In light of some of the rhetoric coming out of the White House in the United States, it would be very unpalatable for many of our members to go to America.
This will definitely be a boost to our economy. I think we're going to see meetings that we've never held in Canada come to Canada.
U.S. Customs and Border Protection told CBC News all foreign arrivals are subject to inspection and that lawful travelers have nothing to fear. Sophia Harris, CBC News, Toronto.
Now it's time to dig deeper into the stories shaping our world. Canada's construction workforce is aging, but filling the gaps requires laborers with the right skills.
The type of workers that are being brought into Canada are not necessarily the workers that we need.
Breaking down the impact of Canada's immigration policy on the country's new housing stock. But first, we're on board as Canada's Navy hunts drug traffickers in the Caribbean Sea, hoping to stop ultra-strong cocaine from wreaking havoc in small Canadian communities. In a CBC News exclusive, Ryan Cook tracks the lethal drugs flowing off the coast of Colombia and the deadly consequences in Canada.
Somewhere off the coast of Colombia, a Canadian warship hunts for prey.
We're gonna pounce. Today is our day to pounce.
We are embedded on a mission to capture cocaine traffickers, and the stakes are high.
Package in the water, starboard side.
In the shadow of a fentanyl crisis, cocaine is exploding, and anything that gets missed out here could end up in a place like this.
In the last 2 years, 27 people died from drug-related deaths. That's a huge number for a small population of 2,000.
You know, you're playing with your life if you're going to use it.
You know, our people are hurting.
The snowy scenery of Shaky India-Pakistan First Nation here in central Labrador has always provided ample inspiration for Marianne Panashaway. But these days, the renowned Innu artist doesn't paint much. Her life has gotten in the way.
I'm tired of worried for my children. I'm worried. I'm just worried, constantly worried.
Marianne and Peter Panashaway raised 4 kids on Shaky India-Pakistan First Nation. 3 fell into cocaine addiction, leaving the Panashaways to step in for their grandkids.
One's in jail. The other 2 are in recovery. They both have been to treatments, and there's only one child that's okay, and that's not a very good record. And we're not, we're not the exception of the families that are experiencing this in the community. You know, it's the rule.
Peter Panashaway has always been a voice for his people, a protester, former Grand Chief, federal MP, and the first Innu cabinet minister. But his latest campaign saw him ditch politics and peaceful protests and pick up a crowbar.
This house in grayish color is the house we bought for Ben, and now it's a drugstore.
The Panashaways hoped this house would help their son get back on his feet. Instead, they say it was traded to a known drug dealer for cash and cocaine at the depths of his addiction.
And I was getting so frustrated. You can't burn the house down. Like, what are you going to do, right?
Peter posted on social media last March, saying he'd start smashing windows if the man inside didn't leave. He stuck to his word and was charged with mischief.
Drug dealers can get away with anything. There's obviously a crisis in the community, and I don't get a sense that people see it as a crisis. I don't sense that our CMP are seeing it as a crisis.
After the incident, the man in the house told CBC he wasn't a drug dealer. He said there was no evidence of any cocaine, but 7 months later, this.
We have invited you here this afternoon to provide an update on Project Beehive.
17 people were arrested in a major sweep of central Labrador. The man who tangled with the Panashaways charged with cocaine trafficking. And there was something about that cocaine that caught even the most seasoned investigators by surprise. Inspector David Emberley heads up the RCMP's organized crime unit in Newfoundland and Labrador. A kilo of cocaine used to be a rare find for his team, but not anymore.
In 2009, when I started in drug section, if we seized a kilo of cocaine, that was a big seizure. Since then, the amount of cocaine that we're seizing has gone up dramatically.
When test results came back on the Shaky bust, there was a shocking result.
Everything we seized was between 94 and 96% pure cocaine, which is unheard of. Only a couple of years ago, the cocaine that the user would buy on the street typically would be 15%, but within the last couple of years, we're regularly now seizing cocaine at the street level, gram level. It's 94, 96%.
What does that mean? Well, let's say you're used to consuming about a gram of cocaine in the run of a night. If you're not aware of this spike in purity, you're doing 6 to 7 times more cocaine than your heart is used to. The result? More people ending up in the morgue, with the province's chief coroner.
The individuals have to know that cocaine is still most dangerous drug. And the reason being that we don't have an antidote.
Dr. Nash Denick has had a front row seat to the spike in cocaine deaths, a 10-fold increase in 10 years, with a major shift at the end of the COVID-19 pandemic emergency. And it's a problem nationwide. Opioids like fentanyl are still the biggest killers in Canada. But deaths from stimulants, a class of drugs including cocaine, are actually growing at a faster rate. Cocaine comes from the coca plant. It's mainly grown in 3 countries, Colombia, Bolivia, and Peru, with the vast majority coming from Colombia. The days of Pablo Escobar may be over, but cocaine and its reign of terror continue. There was hope in 2016 when the Colombian government signed a peace agreement with the Revolutionary Army controlling much of the cocaine trade. But that failed when the government went back on its promises to compensate coca farmers to switch to other crops. The cartels flooded in, violence resumed, and cocaine production skyrocketed. The Royal Canadian Navy is seeing the effects here in the Caribbean. We embedded on the HMCS Margaret Brooke last year for Op Carib, a joint mission involving 20 countries and countless agencies. The team, led by then Commander Nicole Robichaud.
So keep scanning, and that's your priorities for the TY.
The team is fresh off a seizure of 500 kilograms of cocaine in a small open boat in the middle of this vast sea.
People are going to extremes in order to provide for their family. It's not easy going and crossing over 200 miles in an open-faced boat with 2 outboard engines. Most of it in the dead of night so you don't get captured. Underneath a tarp in the sweltering heat, so once again you don't get captured, you don't get seen.
The search starts over. A Customs and Border Patrol plane has spotted another small boat heading towards the Dominican Republic. It's not pinging on the radar or reporting its location. Robichaud mobilizes her team.
Okay, team, listen up. This one's a little bit of a different situation than our last hit.
A rigid inflatable boat, otherwise known as a rib, is lowered into the water. The U.S. Coast Guard team is on board. The rib gets within visual range of the target before one of its engines cuts out. But then, a spark of hope. A sailor spots the target vessel passing in the distance.
100%, yep, that's it. Visual.
Barely visible to our cameras, a boat with 2 men on board is struggling through heavy waves. The Margaret Brooke is in the chase. As we close in on the flailing target, the smugglers make a calculated decision.
Package in the water, starboard side.
They're ditching their cargo. The captain has to make a split-second decision.
Okay, let's come down and speed.
Recover the packages and let the smugglers go. But the smugglers have thrown out decoys, not bricks of cocaine, but empty gas cans. Not the result the team had hoped for.
That one hurt a little bit. I think the entire crew felt it because it was so close. It was so close. Unfortunately, that vessel did get away. Yeah, it hurt.
After nearly 2 months at sea, the Margaret Brooke is heading back to Key West, Florida, having seized more than $15 million in cocaine. The commanding officer says that single seizure alone makes the trip worth it. But how much more got through? And is it more than just a drop in the bucket for the cartels that rule the cocaine trade?
There's an unbroken chain of violence and suffering, all the way from Colombia to places like Shejid. We're invited to an Innu rehab facility to meet the people who are going through it. Pashinish Panashaway came here 4 years ago, tired of running from the pain of addiction.
We don't want to keep seeing our people die because of drugs and alcohol, you know. And it's, you know, our people are hurting. And they use that to escape their pain, you know. They think that's the only way out. You know, that's all they know. And, you know, this is like, shows them, you know, there is a way out. You're not alone.
Loneliness is something Peter and Marianne Panashaway don't ever want their grandkids to feel. For them, this is what's at stake.
Bye, Papa. Good job. My Papa kissed me! Papa, my Papa kissed me!
And they'll do everything they can to protect it.
Take my hand, we'll make it out alive, you and I.
People who wants to see the community change that are living here as well. I want them like to have courage and not to be afraid, because it's for our kids and grandkids.
You're all I need, oh, stay with me.
The First Nation told Ryan they're working hard to tackle the crisis in their community, reviving a crisis line and opening a new detox center. Well, coming up, why some say Canada's immigration policy is making the housing crisis worse. Plus,
the pepper spray at the ready.
A hiker in Banff gets some unwanted company on the trail. The heart-stopping moments caught on camera. In the midst of a housing crisis, is Canada's immigration policy aligned with its needs?
We need to make sure that we have, you know, a real wide variety of skills and a real wide variety of people.
The urgent call for new immigrants with the right skill set to supplement Canada's construction sector. Lisa Shing explains why many in the industry say Canada's immigration policy is way out of date.
Canada is on the cusp of a housing construction crisis.
So we are really struggling with getting the right type of workers.
There aren't enough people to fill the jobs that are needed, those that don't require a certificate or degree.
It's something that we all need to be very concerned about.
The country's immigration system favors highly skilled workers, something that won't just affect the cost of housing, but the price of fixing our aging municipal infrastructure.
If these issues aren't addressed, we're going to deal with problems like rising costs on construction projects.
Making those projects and the prices of homes even more unaffordable.
So here we are in front of one of our townhouse sites.
On the outskirts of London, Ontario, work is steady on a new subdivision.
We have lots of people that have been sitting on the sidelines waiting for more housing to come on stream.
That wait could get even longer if a looming problem isn't addressed.
Well, we are really struggling with getting the right type of workers into the residential construction industry. General laborers that you would...
Sue Wastel is the president of Wastel Homes, a real estate developer in the area. She says she is desperate for framers, tile setters, general laborers, those who learn on the job and move up through the ranks, those who don't necessarily need a degree or certificate.
We just haven't been able to keep up domestically. And what we're seeing on the immigration side is that the type of workers that are being brought into Canada are not necessarily the workers that we need.
Some in the industry say the problem is the federal points-based immigration system. It's outdated, bringing in the most highly educated and skilled. It's those jobs that require an apprenticeship or a certificate, but that's not the type of expertise we need. If we don't meet that quota of workers that we need, what's the effect?
It's going to drive up pricing of new homes. So it's something that none of us want.
But everybody's dealing with the same struggles.
So homes could get a lot more expensive, though it's not just residential construction that's experiencing the pinch. Bigger projects, including municipal infrastructure repairs and builds, are also at risk.
We're worried. The last National Infrastructure Report Card said that 40% of our water and wastewater assets were in fair to poor condition. Over the long term, we're going to have some very serious problems unless we're investing sustainably and growing sustainably.
The pandemic sped up that timeline. People retired early, and according to industry stats, another 22% of the workforce in residential construction is set to retire in the next 8 years. Now you pair that with an ambitious goal to build new housing. Nearly 6 million new homes need to be built by 2030 to tackle the affordability crisis. Now, compounding all of this, the uncertainty of the Canada-U.S. trade war driving up the cost of construction materials. Many industry groups are lobbying for a change to the federal government's regulations. Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada told CBC News it's putting together an advisory council to identify on-the-ground labor needs and advise potential pathways that would bring in and retain the construction workers. It will also create a way for undocumented migrants already working in construction to stay legally.
The critical construction worker pilot is one stream under our provincial nominee program.
If you want to work abroad, I recommend Nova Scotia.
One province tried to tackle the problem. Nova Scotia worked with the federal government to launch a pilot program in 2023, targeting the jobs they need and seeing some success.
Providing flexibility there allows those individuals who are coming from another country who might not be able to have finished high school because they've gone straight into the construction trades, to have sort of a greater flexibility there, not have to provide that documentation.
A good start, but too piecemeal for the Canadian Home Builders Association, calling for change from up top.
At a time when we have a national housing crisis, we feel we shouldn't be saying, well, let's let the provincial programs figure it out. We feel there should be a national program that can help the provincial programs, but also is led at that federal level.
I mean, I'm not surprised at all. Because
another option. Some analysts say Canada should broaden the type of people the country brings in.
We need to make sure that we have, a real wide variety of skills and a real wide variety of people, different types of people from different backgrounds.
Now, Canada's construction industry is seeing a shift towards recruiting more domestic workers, but experts told Lisa it will still take a while before there are enough to fill the kinds of jobs required. Well, up next, a hiker's nerves are put to the test.
Still following me, but you gotta remain calm.
This frightening moment on the trail in our moment. Isaac Shaw was hiking along a trail in Banff last week when he saw this coming towards him, a massive, imposing grizzly bear. So what would you do if you found yourself face to face with a grizzly? Hopefully you are like Isaac. His steely response makes our moment.
So I'm making my way, and as I'm running a corner, I see this majestic beast just right there. He was munching on some bushes, and then he gets up and he looks at me and he starts walking my way. I thought, oh my gosh, that is a grizzly bear, and I got a jolt of adrenaline. I could pretty quickly determine it was a grizzly by the fact of its round head, small ears, and very large claws. So I've been, taught that, hey, with bears, there are these rules or procedures that you should do. For grizzlies, just, try to be non-threatening, keep your distance, and then don't make any sudden movements, and obviously don't run.
Have the pepper spray at the ready.
I decided just to start slowly walking backwards, try to make some distance between me and the bear.
But you gotta remain calm and don't run.
So it was following me for around 5 minutes, I want to say, which kind of lasted forever. Eventually we came to the stream and he was just thirsty. He just stopped at the stream, got a drink of water, and I just kept walking back. I'm like, all right, he's thirsty. He doesn't want any part of me, so I'm leaving.
Isaac, I don't know how you kept your head there. Parks Canada says that, listen, the bears are coming out of hibernation, so be extra careful. And that apparently they think Isaac's approach was like textbook perfect. Stay calm, back away slowly, never run. So much easier said than done. From all of us at The National, thank you for being with us. You can watch anywhere, anytime on the free CBC News app and subscribe to The National's YouTube channel. I'm Adrienne Arsenault. Take care.